Have you ever walked through a crowded room and felt like you were observing the world from behind a glass wall? You are there, you are breathing, and you are smiling, but you are also watching yourself do it. You see the patterns in the laughter, the subtle shifts in the conversation, and the predictable rhythms of the people around you. While everyone else seems to be simply living, you feel like a visitor from another dimension who is constantly analyzing the data of existence. If you have ever felt this specific type of isolation, it is likely that you possess a high-resolution mind. Society often labels this as being antisocial, arrogant, or even broken. But what if the distance you feel isn't a defect, but a side effect of seeing too much? What if you are not lonely because you lack social skills, but because your brain processes the world in a definition that most people cannot perceive? Today, we are going to explore the reality of walking through life with an advanced cognitive engine. We are going to look at 10 signs that your intelligence has created a world that is fundamentally different from the one everyone else is living in. This is not about feeling superior. It is about finding the language for a quiet, intellectual solitude that often goes unnamed. Sign number 10 is the curse of the predictive brain. You often know exactly how a conversation is going to end before the other person has finished their third sentence. As they speak, your brain is already mapping the entire narrative arc, predicting the punchline, the complaint, or the point they are building toward. You stand there nodding, not because you are bored, but because you have already fast-forwarded through their story in your head. It feels like watching a movie you have seen a dozen times, while everyone else is experiencing the premiere. You want to be present, and you want to enjoy the journey of the dialogue, but you are already stuck at the destination waiting for them to arrive. You have learned to pretend that you are surprised, but that performance creates a thin layer of exhaustion that never truly goes away. Number 9 is a profound existential boredom that leads to a deep sense of guilt. Your brain metabolizes information at a rate that most people cannot match, which means you are constantly hungry for substance. When you are in a situation where the conversation remains on the surface, your mind begins to pull at its leash like a restless dog. You feel terrible about this because you truly care about the person in front of you. They are sharing their day or their new hobby, and they deserve your full attention. But inside, your mind is screaming for a challenge, searching for the next thing that will make you feel truly awake. You have realized that intelligence doesn't make you better, it just makes you insatiable. In a world built for steady, predictable rhythms, your hunger for depth feels like a heavy burden you carry in secret. Sign number 8 is that you have apologized for your intelligence more than you have ever celebrated it. You learn very early in life that being too much makes other people uncomfortable, too analytical, too intense, too serious, or too complicated. So, you learned the art of sanding down your edges to make yourself fit into smaller spaces. You pause before you speak to choose simpler words, and you make jokes about overthinking to hide the fact that your brain never shuts off. You have become an expert at playing a character designed to make everyone else feel smart. The most painful part is when people tell you how easy you are to talk to, because you know they are only talking to the version of you that is hiding. You realize that shrinking yourself doesn't create a real connection. It only creates a successful performance. Number 7 is what we call forensic empathy, or the ability to see pain before it is admitted. It is not magic. It is simply high-level pattern recognition. You notice the micro-pause before a friend answers a question, or the forced brightness in their tone. You see the unspoken sadness and the hidden fear that they are trying so hard to mask. You hold their secrets before they ever tell you, becoming the silent keeper of truths they aren't ready to face. Because you see it so clearly, every conversation becomes layered with subtext. You can no longer take anything at face value because your brain is constantly cross-examining every smile and every gesture. You often wonder if you are projecting, but when people finally break, you are never surprised. You are just sad that you saw the tragedy coming and were powerless to stop it. Sign number 6 is that you find more connection with strangers than with people you have known for years. Strangers have no history with you and no expectations for the character you usually play. With a stranger on a train or a random person in a coffee shop, you can suddenly stop pretending. For 20 minutes, you talk about mortality, purpose, or the absurdity of life, and it feels like breathing after being underwater. But with your old friends, you feel trapped in a specific frequency that you established years ago. Changing that frequency now feels like admitting you have been lying to them the entire time. So you keep the conversation light and talk about shows or plans, while your real self stays locked in a separate room. You live in two worlds, one where you perform normalcy and one where you are actually alive. Number 5 is a tendency to sabotage good things simply because they feel too simple. You have walked away from stable jobs, healthy relationships, and easy friendships because they lacked intellectual friction. You have a bias toward complexity, believing that if something doesn't require mental gymnastics, it isn't worth keeping. Smart people often romanticize the struggle because they are afraid that if they stop fighting, they will disappear. You might think that if a relationship is easy, it must be hollow, but you are slowly learning that intelligence also means knowing when to stop analyzing and just feel. You are learning that some of the deepest connections are quiet and do not need to be dissected to be real. Sign number 4 is the inability to enjoy stories the way most people do. 10 minutes into a movie, you have already spotted the plot holes and predicted the twist ending. Halfway through a novel, you are frustrated by the logical inconsistencies of the protagonist. People tell you to just enjoy it, and that it's not that deep. But for you, everything is that deep. Your brain will not let you suspend your disbelief because it is too busy cataloging technical and thematic errors. You experience the craftsmanship and the structure, but that often crowds out the emotional impact of the narrative. You aren't trying to be a critic. You just can't help but see the world in higher resolution. Number 3 is the realization that most arguments are not about truth, but about comfort. When you see a factual error, your instinct is to correct it with evidence because you prioritize accuracy above all else. But you have learned that most people do not want to be right. They want to be validated. They are not making a logical claim. They are protecting a feeling or an identity. When you challenge their belief with facts, they don't see an opportunity to learn. They see an attack. For someone whose brain is wired to find what is real, this is deeply maddening and isolating. You are trying to find the truth, while everyone else is just trying to feel safe in their own illusions. Sign number 2 is an underlying terror of wasting your potential. There is a voice in your head that has been there since childhood, whispering that you are capable of something great. It sounds like ambition, but it often feels like a prison sentence. You never know if you are doing enough or if the life you are living is worthy of the mind you were given. You spend your days planning, optimizing, and preparing for a grand purpose that always seems to be just out of reach. You fear that at the end of your life, you will realize you spent all your time preparing to live instead of actually living. You are learning that potential is infinite and that you will never reach the end of what you could be. The goal is to stop fulfilling a cosmic purpose and start doing the things that make you feel truly alive right now. Finally, sign number 1 is that you have never felt fully at home in your own life. Even in your best moments, surrounded by love and success, there is a thin membrane between you and the world. You are living your life, but you are also the film crew in your head, recording and critiquing every move. You are always being and observing the being at the same time. This distance is the price of your awareness, and it is a heavy debt to pay. You see the color, but you feel like you are watching it through a screen. But please listen to this. That distance is not a flaw you need to fix. It is the very thing that allows you to see the patterns that others miss and create meaning where others see chaos. You were never meant to disappear into the crowd or be just like everyone else. You were meant to stand slightly apart, seeing the things that need to be seen and asking the questions that no one else thinks to ask. Not because you are better, but because your brain was built for depth in a shallow world. Your solitude is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of your rare frequency. So stop shrinking, stop apologizing, and stop trying to dim your light to make others comfortable. The world doesn't need more people who fit in. It needs people who see too much. Accept the high resolution of your mind and use it to build something that only you can imagine. You are not broken, you are just awake. I will see you in the next one.